Alright guys, in this video we are going to learn how to write and graph equations of circles. Whenever we write our equations of our circles, we always write them in standard form. The standard equation of a circle has a center of HK and a radius of R. So then when we look at our standard equation, it'll have x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. So then our center would be the value of h and the value of k and the r. Notice how our r is always being squared, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we see actual equations of circles written in standard form and how to find our r, or our radius. So in example 1, we have to write an equation of a circle. So based on our graph and knowing the fact that this is our equation of our circle that we have to write it in standard form, we first want to identify our center. There's our center. The coordinates of our center is 0, 0. So then right away, our h and our k is 0. Okay, so then right away I just plug in my h and my k, so I have x minus 0 quantity squared plus y minus 0 quantity squared equals, now we need our r, our radius. So if I drew a line from the center to the edge of the circle, I can see that we've gone 1, 2 units. So then my radius would be 2, and in our standard equation it's squared. So then after we identify our center and our radius, we can simplify our equation. So then when I simplify it out, we'd have just x squared plus y squared equals 4. This is our standard equation of a circle based on our graph. Alright, example 2 says write the standard equation of a circle. So we're given a point -3, 4 on a circle with a center of -1, +2. We have to write the standard equation of the circle. So luckily, you guys are given a graph, and sometimes there isn't going to be a situation where you don't have a visual. So we're going to use this graph to our advantage. So the first thing that we know is that there's a point -3, 4 and a center of -1, 2. So the center is right there. So there's our center. So then we know right away that our h is -1 and our k is 2. Now we're only missing a radius. So if you look really closely, foolishly we can assume that from the center to here, that would be the radius. But if you look on the other side, we've moved the circle to the left just a smidge. So from this point, our center, to the edge of this circle is not going to be on an exact point. So what I am going to do is draw an actual radius from the center to the edge of the circle to the other point that's given at -3, +4. So we're going to use that point and label it x and y. We're going to definitely use that to help us write our standard equation of our circle. So if we were to write our standard equation of a circle, we need a center, which is what we have, but we don't have a radius. Alright, so there's two ways to actually find the radius. One, if you're given a graph like we have here, we can use the Pythagorean theorem. If we're not given a graph, we'd have to use the distance formula and figure out what the length of this radius is going to be. Okay? So luckily we have a graph, so we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem, but the thing is we need to find our right triangle. So from here to here, that's one of our sides of our triangle. So if I just create a triangle where my right angle is right here, I have my two sides, my two legs, and my hypotenuse that I need to find. So the length of one leg of my triangle is 2, and the other leg is also 2. So then using the Pythagorean theorem, I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and then substituting in what I know, and our c right now is going to represent our radius. So we have 2 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared, which is our radius still. Simplify further. Keep going. So then if you look real quick, we're left with 8 equals c squared. So to get our radius, which is represented by just the letter c, not c squared, we have to take the square root of both sides. So if you take the square root of a +8, reduced down, we get a 2 root 2 equals our c. That is our radius. So we have our center and we have our radius right here. Now we can write our standard equation of our circle. So we have h and k, which is going to be -1, +2. Our radius is 2 root 2. So then we write our standard equation. So we have x minus a -1 squared plus a y minus 2 squared equals 2 root 2 quantity squared. So notice that our standard equation always has an x minus, x or y minus, and we substitute in our exact values. Look what happens when we simplify the expression inside the parentheses for our first binomial. The two negatives together make a positive, so we have an x plus 1 quantity squared plus a y minus 2 quantity squared, and then finally if we were just to square 2 root 2 again, we'd get a +8. This is our standard equation of our circle. Alright, finally we have to learn how to graph our circle. So they give us an equation in standard form. So it's x minus 2 quantity squared plus y plus 3 quantity squared equals 16. Well, I need my center. My center is at +2 and -3. So some might think that we'd actually have a +3 for our k, but remember, our standard equation calls for an x minus and then a y minus. So thinking about what would k have to be for this to be a +3 would be -3. Because if we simplified y minus a -3, which would represent our k, this actually would turn into a y plus 3. Okay? So now we have our center. Our radius is going to be whatever this value is, but we have to take the square root. So because it's written as r squared. So to get just the radius, we take the square root, so then r would equal 4. So then our radius is 4. So with center at 2, -3, and then our radius at 4, we can put our center down, and just be careful because our graph is scaled by 2. 2 -3 is over 2, down 2, and then the halfway is 3. And then if our radius is 4, count 4 to the right, it's going to be 2, so 2, 4, put a dot, then go down 2, 4, put a dot, go to left, 2, 4, put a dot, and then 1 on top as well. And to the best of your ability, draw a circle to connect all dots. Do not make a rhombus or a square, please. That's the best I could do on this tablet. Okay? So hopefully today you learned how to write an equation of a circle in standard form, as well as graph a circle when you're given the equation in standard form.